We're so excited today to be joined by Kathy Hain-de Jong. She is a college counselor who specializes in helping dancers navigate the challenges of college admissions and dance team recruitment. With a unique niche in the field, a background in consulting, and her experience as a mother of two Division One collegiate dancers, she provides families with practical, expert guidance to support and to find the right fit and prepare confidently for this demanding process. We are so excited to have Kathy join us. This is so important to get out right now as it's the thick of recruitment season. I'm so excited to dive in, not only because you've already been through this with two collegiate dancers of your own, but also as a college counselor who sees it evolve, and dance recruiting has evolved so much, I feel like, since 2020, and it just keeps evolving. So we're really excited to have you here. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. I'm really excited to chat with you.
Absolutely. Something about our podcast that we like to always start with is the same question. And our question comes from a book called John Wooden on Leadership. And one of the things he talks about is there's nothing like going through adversity. And so we want to know, what has been the biggest adversity to get to where you are today?
I think the biggest challenge has been just like self-belief, right? It's something that you have to have the commitment and the drive and the desire to do something. So I didn't start my career as a college counselor, and I certainly didn't start my college counseling career thinking I was going to specialize in dance. My profession was in management consulting, IT project management. So I had a long, 20-year career in that field, and I was unfulfilled, and it wasn't giving me any joy at all. And, growing up with two dancers, that was my passion. On the dance team in high school. I love to dance. I'm not professionally trained in any way, but it is a passion of mine. And so I'm like, okay, I need to do something that I really feel strongly about, that I'm going to get fulfillment from. But when I told people that this is the direction I wanted to go, that I wanted to do something that provided value to others and contribute to a community of sorts rather than sitting behind the desk and doing project management charts, I got a lot of pushback. And so I think one of the things was just, yeah, acknowledgement of what's important to me and going for it.
I love that. Okay, and so I'm so curious, with both of your daughters dancing and also with the recruitment process for collegiate dance changing so much every single year over the last decade. Can you tell us a little bit more about what your journey was with your kids? Like, what year was it? What was their process, and how has that changed?
So both of my girls grew up doing competitive dance. So it was in a very good studio, very competitive, great technique training. They were well-trained dancers. But they knew they didn't want to dance professionally. So my oldest daughter graduated in 2020. At that time, even during her senior year, she was thinking, okay, maybe I'd like to do a dance team. But that was about the extent of her thought process at that time. She was looking at the academics, and that was the important piece of it for her. And she knew she didn't want to dance professionally. So it's like, oh, yeah, maybe a dance team. Um, so as it turned out, she ended up going to Wake Forest University. And long story short, it was a difficult road for her. It was 2020. They did the auditions virtually, and she made the team there, only to have the coach terminated like a month and a half later, having the administration decide that they wanted to re-audition the team. Re-audition the team, she did not make the team. And so she spent her freshman year of college basically in a dorm room doing nothing, depressed that she had this opportunity and it was taken away from her. And so that's kind of where I started thinking, okay, we really need to get a handle on this process, not just and it was about that 2020 period where the whole dance team thing really started picking up and taking off, where recruitment became a bigger deal. That some teams were recruiting prior to that. About that time, a lot of schools were starting to look at, okay, we need to use recruitment as a tool for selecting a dance team. So she ended up re-auditioning the next year, making the team. Ended up being on the team that competed in 2024 and made it to the finals of jazz and UDA. Yes. So it was like, talk about overcoming adversity. That was something that, she could be really proud of doing that. My younger daughter came in 2 years later. Again, she went to Wake Forest, is on the dance team, and she's currently there now as a senior. So I have, as they have progressed through high school and I started working with more dancers, because of course the people at the studio that they were dancing with say, oh, we need help going to college. We want to do a college major, a dance major, or we want to do dance team. Can you help us? So my entire practice completely transformed into working specifically with dancers over that period because I could see how things were moving. And I wanted to make sure that we gave these dancers the best opportunity and the most information we possibly could to help guide them through the process. And that was basically how the book was born as well, is I'm like, okay, there's just too much to really for any parent or dancer to really kind of comprehend all the factors that are involved in both the college admissions process and the dance team process. And how do you navigate that? It's really very difficult.
I don't know if you saw our reaction, but our jaw dropped, and I'm pretty sure everyone listening's jaw just dropped. First, there's so much I want to ask. First and foremost, as her parent that year, and I think all dancers have a story of overcoming adversity. Like, that's one of the reasons that's our first question. Because we all have that story. Any athlete, anyone doing anything that's hard is going to have adversity. And that's huge. That's huge. She went to the college. She sat in her dorm room, did not get to participate in something that she thought was happening. After going through 2020, after having her senior year, all of the things that happened in
Right.
2020. So
Right.
my question, as I know you have that counseling degree, but then also as her mom and for a parent listening and their child might be going through adversity, what advice did you give to your daughter at that time? One, how did you navigate that as a parent? Your emotions and your frustrations and anger, but then also what was your advice to her to help her keep going to then get to the opportunity where she tried out again, she made the team, and then they had the success of going to finals in 2024.
Yeah, I can't tell you how hard it was. It was devastating. It really was. And so, particularly knowing that she had the talent and the skills, and whoever ended up auditioning that second time for whatever reason, just and it's all virtual too, right? It's like so it was very hard to watch. My only advice to her as a mother was this happens in life. There are these times where it's out of your control. You do everything you possibly can. You let yourself mope around for a couple of days and then you pick yourself up and you keep going, right? It was even more difficult with COVID, right? Because there wasn't like a lot of alternative activities that could be done. And making friends that first year at college was very difficult. So I think for parents, one of the things that's really important now is almost preparing them for those times in high school, right? We almost not that we want to set them up for failure, but we want to prepare them for the times when they don't succeed for whatever reason and help them through those processes early on. I think one of the challenges I had as a mother too is just trying to help them through all those challenges and negate any, problems that they may have when in fact what you're doing is just not teaching them the skills to cope with those difficult challenges. So that's the one thing I think it's important, even in high school, to let them have those moments where it doesn't go as expected and help them through that so that when they do go to college, they're more prepared to handle them.
Yeah, well, it sounds like your daughter is lucky to have a mom like you that understands that, right? It's important to let kids fail and have to learn, and then we can be there and support them and guide them out of it, but you have to experience that to build resiliency and confidence in yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So now the athletes and the families and the parents you work with, what does that look like? What does that process look like? What type of advice do you give these kids and their families? I mean, having you as a resource who's been through it and in that realm, I mean, that's just like everything.
Yeah. So part of what I do is help families understand that this is kind of a different process than anything out there that I'm aware of. back in the day, again, most teams would have an audition. You tried out, you made it, you didn't make it, right? Then this whole recruitment process comes around. But in many ways, it's very different from, say, some of the athletic recruiting, where should you make the team, there's a scholarship there at the end of the rainbow, right? For a dance team, that's not necessarily the case. Very few teams are going to offer you a scholarship to dance in college, right? So it's really important for families to understand that the way that you make the dance team is through your academics, right? You have to get into the school in order to even have a shot at a dance team. So the academics play as much of a role in this process as your dance technique and skills. So that's where we begin to work with dancers, even as young as 8th grade, trying to get that academic piece set up, right? What classes you're going to take in high school? Um, you know, what kind of other extracurriculars can you work into your busy dancer schedule to help boost your college application? So from the academic standpoint, we're really trying to make sure they understand you've got to have the grades, right? Because if your grades fall down, the number of colleges that you're going to be able to pursue also decreases, right? So to keep the best opportunity to be on a dance team that you might want to be on, the grades have got to be there. So on the dance team side, one of the things that we do when we work with students is start with a dance evaluation. So what we're looking at is making sure dancers have an idea of what they realistically can expect when they get into that recruitment and audition process. What are those teams that are realistically in reach for you, given what year you're in high school, how much time you have to continue training, the effort that you're putting into that training, and what that would look like, say, beginning of senior year. So we can start looking at them about 9th grade and starting to put together a preliminary list of schools that would have a good academic fit for them and a good dance team fit for them at that time. And then we continuously talk about that as they progress through 10th and 11th, and then build on both preparing for the academic piece, the college application piece, and preparing for the recruitment and auditions that come in senior year.
Okay, so I love that you mentioned creating a list with these families of like what are your realistic options, right? Because there's so many dance teams out there, and often dancers only look at those top, 20-time national champion D1A team. How does that process look like? How do you sit down with a dancer and be like, well, you're not good enough for that team? Well, you know what I mean? What is
I really want the dancers that I'm working with to understand that I am coming from a perspective of trying to help them be successful. If I'm not honest with them, the chances of success here diminish. So I really have to make sure that they understand that I'm not trying to burst their bubble. I'm trying to create opportunities for them. I'm trying to see them at, the end of their senior year, and we're celebrating together because they got into a great school and they made this team and they're going to have a fantastic college experience. But I can only help them do that if I'm honest with them. And it goes on the academic side too, right? I would tell a kid, you know what? You're not getting into Harvard. I don't have a problem telling them that. I will tell them, go for the dream. If you want to go to Harvard, I will help you do the application. I will support you 100%. But I've got to be realistic with you. You've got less than a 1% chance of getting in, right? And I can do the same thing with the dance teams too. It's just at some point you can tell these are the teams where you should aspire to. And above that, you know what? If you want to go for it, I will support you. We'll do what we can to get you there. But you need to have these other schools lined up so that, you can be successful in the process.
Yeah. So what's your advice? Do you give them like a fallback option, a reach for the stars option, and then like the realistic ones? And how do you evaluate them to tell them what is or isn't realistic for them?
Yeah. So it's I do it the same way on the academic side and the dance side. So on the academic side, I'm evaluating the classes they're taking, the grades they're getting, the extracurriculars they're participating in, their leadership capabilities. There's a list of number of things that colleges look for in a applicant. On the dance team side, we're doing the same thing. We're doing the evaluation to take a look at the technique and the skills, but we're also helping them boost their chances of being successful with advising them on, where to do clinics and how to prepare for combines and, recruitment events. And so we're guiding them through that, helping them with things like a dance resume or a reel to send to coaches. And so we're doing those things to prepare them. In order to evaluate, we're using the grades and, those criteria on the academic side, and we're using the evaluation on the dance team side and some of these other, their training and kind of how they're boosting their training with acro or additional skills. And then we create a list that we present to the dancer and say, okay, here's where we think we've got it's like a Venn diagram, right? It's like, here's the schools where we think you have a good shot at getting in. Here's the teams where we think you have a good shot at getting in. Overlap those, and that's your sweet spot. And so we kind of find a targeted list of schools that we help guide them to so that they can be successful in the process. But again, as with the academic process, you've got those reach schools, kind of middle, good fit schools, and then you got the safety. I do the same thing on the dance team. I look at them the same way. Like, okay, that's a reach. We'll keep it on the list, but we really want to hit that middle tier where it's a pretty good shot. And then just in case, maybe there's a couple teams that we're really confident that it won't be a problem, right? So when we matched it all together, we're really focusing in on targeted schools. And I think that's really important because I think too many dancers and families take a more of a kind of shotgun approach with this. Like, let's go visit any and all schools and do every clinic we can go to. And it just ends up being unfocused. There's no strategy. There's no planning. There's no intention behind it. It's just, let's go and we'll figure it out when the time comes. What I'm trying to do is help target first, come up with a strategy, and then help them be successful in that process.
So you said that, starting as young as 8th grade, starting to think about what classes are you taking in high school and that academic approach. And that's a big shift I hear, like I myself am hearing, is something that as a studio owner, and I'm not thinking in my head about their academics, honestly. And that I'm
Right.
hearing that now is a huge shift I'm having of like, that's a conversation we need to be having, right? Because the academics drive, that's the whole reason you're a student athlete, student first.
Right. Right.
You had said, like, starting that kinda in 8th grade. What about if a dancer doesn't realize they wanna dance in college until maybe their junior year of high school, and they're listening, maybe there's a junior high school sitting here going, "Oh my gosh, I was supposed to start in 8th grade. Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do?" What's your advice? Is it too late for them? Or would you say what would be your advice to someone that maybe just decided they wanted to do this, but they're into their
Yeah,
junior,
one
even
of the
senior years?
examples I have in the book, The Recruitable Dancer, I have an example of a client that I worked with. Her name was Danielle. And Danielle came to me August of her senior year. No list, like just starting to think about it. And we had to quickly, with college applications, some of the deadlines are as early as October 15th. So we had to quickly come up with a list of schools that she would enjoy going to, making sure that there was some team options there, and quickly get to the application process. Now, none of those teams were like pure recruitment, so we didn't have to worry about that. But it's doable, but the student has to be really clear about, again, intention. Where do you want to school? What do you want to study? What kind of dance team experience do you want? Do you want game day, competitive, a combination of both? And if they can articulate that and have thought about it, then it's pretty straightforward in terms of trying to pull together a list for them. They've got to be willing to quickly do their research on the schools, go visit. It's a very expedited process at that point, but it is doable, particularly if you are not looking at recruitment, pure recruitment teams, but more of those hybrid pre-screen audition or pure audition teams.
Okay, and you bring up those teams that are purely or mostly recruitment, and a huge change in this recruitment world has been now the Common App. And I feel like we don't it just started, right? So we don't know if it's a great thing or a terrible thing yet. I'm sure it's a great thing. I think, I know all of the intentions behind it are really good, and it's going to be awesome, but what are your thoughts on it? What do you think are some pros and some cons of the new Common App for dance recruitment?
The first challenge we have is calling it the Common App because of the confusion with the current app, the Common App process for applying to college. There's no relationship between the two. So I refer to it as the Common Recruitment video. Take the word app out of it so we don't confuse things. I actually talked to someone the other day and like, oh, I heard we could apply for dance teams in the Common App. I'm like, no, no, that's not it. It's a common recruitment video. I think the intention behind it was good from firsthand experience. Know the challenges these dancers have applying for college at the same time they're recruiting 20, 30 videos for dance auditions and recruitment. It is overwhelming. It is truly overwhelming. So I understand the intention of saying, okay, let's try and cut down on the number of these videos. We'll start with a standard video. Makes sense. However, what hasn't happened is what are the rules once they submit the video, right? So now the kids are submitting the videos and then it's crickets, right? What are they supposed to do with that? You know? So I think as this evolves, I think it's important for there to be the standardization for the dancers to help, kind of streamline that process. But I think it needs to also fall on the coaches and have responsibility for what the process looks like once they receive those videos. Like how long before you respond? What kind of response should they expect? It's just really challenging for those dancers right now. The other thing, as with the common application for college, once that common application was developed, it made it much easier for kids to apply to 20, 30 colleges. Same thing with this. Once they got that video done, guess what they did? They sent it to every single one of those teams with no intention behind it. It was just, let me throw it out there to 30 teams and see if anybody likes me. And again, I take the opposite approach. Like, you need to decide what your intention is for college and dance team and how much dance team you want, right? And then apply to the teams that make sense for you, right? And not just see who likes you and then go from there. I think it's completely backwards to do it that way.
Okay. You just like hit a touch point when you talked about the coach, like once they submit it, what are the rules? Because I know Bree works with high schoolers. I work with high schoolers too. And it is almost torture. I've heard of, like, the mental state of some of these dancers once it's submitted and they don't hear. I've even heard of people, they look to see how many views it's gotten to see if the coach has seen it. They said how they're constantly checking their email every single day, many times throughout the day because they think that email's coming. And you talked about how there needs to be some kind of recruitment rules. I know some of the top performing D1 colleges do have, if you don't hear by this date, and or I know of people saying you will hear by this date, but then also making sure they're following through, because I've also heard that that date's come and gone for some, even though they were told it was that date, and then crickets. And so what would be your suggestion to the colleges on what does that look like? Like, what would be your suggestion on them with the rules, with the timelines?
I don't think this can happen overnight, but I think a number of things can happen. I think if we can get some kind of standardization on both sides, but on the coach's side, maybe there's something like, okay, these are the things that you post on your website so that you're giving specific information about your team and the expectations of the team and the cost to be on the team. Because some, you're paying for the privilege to dance on that team. So standard information that should be on the website so that kids understand if they're applying to be recruited for that team, they already know kind of what they're getting into. As far as the timing of the process, I think that needs to be looked at a little bit more. My concern is trying to navigate the dance team recruitment at the same time as they're trying to complete their college applications. That's where I see a lot of difficulty. And then you layer in everything else, schoolwork, studios, dance teams in high school. They're just so overloaded. I don't know what the answer is to that. But if we can give them clarity, it's easier to plan, right? So that's important. I think there should be some, to your point, some rules on communication, timelines. If we could have the timelines consistent, that would be great because then, they could pivot and do something else. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, but it's going to take the industry as a whole. And that includes, not only the college coaches, but some of these other industry leaders, even, the people that are running the competitions and these conventions and combines. And I think it really will take a lot of people coming together to formulate a process that makes it work in the best interest of the dancer, but also reduces, and maybe reduces isn't the right word, but streamlines the work that the coaches need to do as well, right? I don't want to leave them hanging. So if there's a way that, this all works out for the betterment of everybody involved, that would be welcome.
Yeah, so much good stuff here. And you mentioned how it can be overwhelming for kids who are trying to do these 30 videos during the time they're doing their applications for college. And what my mind went to was so then you also mentioned like not having a lot of intention and kids are sending it to 30 different colleges without, just to see like, oh, maybe they accept me. And something I fear is that, I mean, I'm thinking of one college specifically, and they got 150 recruit videos or videos of like people trying to get recruited to them. But what I worry is that none of it's going to matter. Kind of like colleges were having auditions, right, in the past. But it got to a point where they knew who they were bringing onto the team before that tryout day. So they were really just wasting everyone else's time, right? And because they knew who they wanted before they did tryouts. I worry that this is going to be a similar situation where like you already know who you're wanting to recruit before you're even opening these recruitment videos because people have been coming to your clinics for years. And so not to say it does, I don't know. And also this is the first year that they're doing like the common recruiting,
Mhm.
the
Right.
common video, standardizing it. And I think they will adjust as it goes. And I know that there are great intentions behind it. And it's really hopefully opening doors for a lot of athletes to get more coaches' eyes on them. But I know at least these bigger schools, like I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this works out because like the college I'm thinking of that's, had 150 videos, but they already have like their group of recruits who they're choosing from. So like, is that college even looking right? Is that college even looking at any of these kids? Or is it wasting the coach's time and wasting the kids' times because that relationship wasn't already built? Which kind of leads me to my next question is how important do you think it is that kids are going to these clinics freshman, sophomore, junior year and building those relationships? Because I think it is too late for some kids for some programs if they don't start until their senior year because
Yes.
a lot of those schools already know who they're looking at.
Okay, so this is the part where I kind of see both sides. As far as do I go to every clinic, these schools are using the clinics as revenue as well, right? So we know these teams are not funded well. So I completely get the opportunity to, get some revenue for the team to do the things that they want to do. But it also, if you've got a clinic every 6 weeks, these kids almost feel like, well, they got another one. I gotta go. Again, I see both sides, but we're almost creating this hamster wheel that I don't know how we get off of until there is some kind of cohesion of ideas by all parties. The same thing applies with the application process. The application recruitment process usually requires a fee. So are they going to say, hey, sorry, our team's full when they can collect, money through this recruitment process? I do think it's somewhat disingenuous to put people through that, to your point, but I also see these teams are highly visible. These kids want the opportunity to get in front of the coaches and meet the team. And so there's a lot that goes into it. It's very complex, but I think you make, a good point. As far as should they go? Yes, I believe dancers should go ahead and at least get some experience with the team and a clinic on campus with the coaches, with the team. I think that's fabulous experience. It does get you in front of the coaching staff and get you familiar with their style. of dance. And so I think it's helpful, but I also don't want to give the kids the idea that you have to go to 10 clinics between your sophomore and senior year to be, a good prospect for that team. So it's a fine line, and that's where I try and help give them some comfort in what they're doing and how they're doing it. Because again, it's how do you know? How do you really know? And I've, worked with, a lot of dancers, and I still am like, I don't know, how many people they're going to take this year. So it's hard. It's a hard process to navigate for sure.
Yeah. So something you talked about already was like college admissions, right? And you were like, hey, to get into the college of your choice, like that's first. You have to be able to get into the college. Something else that I'm hearing and seeing in the industry is they will get an offer from a college and then happen, then they don't get into the actual college, which is devastating as a dancer because you just got on the team that you've worked really hard and then you don't get into the college. It's absolutely crazy because you think of like a football player or a basketball player, and it's like there is no way a school's not like if the college
Not going to take
basketball
them.
coach,
Yeah.
yeah, the college basketball coach is like, hey, we're recruiting this player, and the college is like, oh, sorry, we don't have room for them. That's not going to happen. So, what's your take on that? What have you seen, heard, advice? Because that was a new one. I heard that in the last year, and I had never heard of that before.
It's not that unusual. I had a dancer that applied to a pretty selective school, and she was waitlisted, which means she wasn't accepted, she wasn't deferred, she was waitlisted, meaning if we don't have enough people say yes, then we'll go to our wait list and you may come off the wait list. But generally, those wait list acceptances are very, very slim. It's a handful. So she got waitlisted. So the school was an audition team, and she contacted coach and said, I'm really sorry. I won't be attending audition because I got waitlisted. The coach told her, no, come on to the audition. And the dancer called me up. It's like, what is this? I wasn't accepted to the school. I said, I don't know, but if she's inviting you, she has a reason for it. So she went to the audition, and they actually announced her as a member of the team on social media, and she hasn't been accepted to the school. So it wasn't even a pending acceptance. It was so and so made the team. That was the end of April when a lot of these auditions happen. She did not get off the wait list. I think it was the end of June, 1st of July. She finally got off the wait list. So we're talking 2 months of not knowing whether she was going to be accepted to that school or not. She finally had to contact the coach and say, look, it's July. I need to deposit at another school and plan to go elsewhere. But then, something happened in the process where she was taken off a wait list. But yeah, that's what I try and do and even in the book, I talk about all these kind of scenarios that just don't happen with recruited athletes under the NCAA, right? So there's no guardrails on this process at all for these kids. So anything can happen. Anything can happen in this process. There's no protections at all for these dancers.
Poor kids are just being strung along left and right, different ways. So what else? What else, without giving everything away, of course, but what else are readers going to learn from reading your book? Like you just talked about that story and how you talk about how it's different from other athletic recruiting processes. What else can readers learn from your book?
About how to navigate the process on both sides. I kind of look at it as parallel tracks, the academic track and the dance team recruitment path. And they really have to proceed on both those paths until they intersect at the point where they're sending their college applications and they're sending those recruitment videos. At that point, it's now become kind of an entangled process. So I guide them through both. So with this book, it's actually 2 books in one. It's a college application kind of guide and also a dance team journey guide. So I'm helping readers navigate both those processes. We talk about things like the preparation for college applications, but also the preparation for dance teams. Like, what are these things you can be doing? How do you reach out to a coach? What does a dance team or what does a dance resume look like? We talk about training. When should be you should be training, just your basic dance training. How do you incorporate dance team specific training along the way? How do you work in things like acro if it's not, part of your normal training? Are you going out and getting privates? And we kind of put a schedule together of sorts to help dancers that start very early. They're 2, 3 years old and they're kind of navigating their way into a dance team journey versus those ones that are starting later and say, ooh, I'm in my junior year. I don't have these skills, can I still make a team? Yes, but you have to set maybe some different expectations for that. So helping them through that, talking about the importance of the factors that make you a good student athlete, that athletic piece of it, and discussing how dancers are athletes. They have to train like athletes. They have to be treating injuries like athletes. They have to have the nutrition and the sleep as an athlete. So, kind of changing the thought process of the typical dancer a little bit from just thinking about, the typical ballerina body and, the weight that's, just not there on them and kind of saying, okay, no, it's really, really important that you have the nutrition. You are going to be working constantly, right? It's very hard to do all of the exercise and dancing that is required of a collegiate dance team member. So it's a very different looking training process as well to get them prepared for how much physical exercise they're going to be doing in college. So all of that's included in the book. And then just, what to expect once you go to college and understanding that you should have intention about what type of team you want to be a part of. One of the things I say is there's a dance team out there for everybody. I firmly believe that. But you have to have the proper expectations, right? You have to be intentional and you have to be willing to maybe not do exactly what you would, maybe it's not a competitive D1A team, right? Maybe it's a D3 school, but you're going to get the competitive experience. Or maybe game day is what you really want. And that's what's really important to you. And you don't want to spend the 30 plus hours of time that it requires to be a D1A jazz top elite level dancer, right? So we talk about that in the book as well and make sure that dancers have some idea about what their intention is for the team that they want to pursue.
And what would you say is a parent's role in all of this? What advice do you give the parents? How involved or not involved should they be through the whole process?
You know, it's hard to navigate all this, I will say. And one of the things I had a conversation with a parent the other day, and she said, "You know what? My kid's in ninth grade or just starting 10th grade. But what you hear is the coach is saying, I don't want to hear from the parent. But yet it's a ninth or 10th grader. We're not talking about a senior in high school that should be able to articulate, their desires for college and things like that. I still understand why a parent would want to be involved with the communication of a ninth grader. So that's something I think we have to really be aware of too, is we can't expect these, 14-year-olds to be able to conduct themselves as if they were seniors in college. So I do think parents can help guide the dancer in this process and certainly step in as appropriate. I think they can help these kids get over it. I call it the shiny object syndrome. I think the parents can help dancers understand that, yes, Ohio State and Minnesota are marvelous teams and I could watch them all day. Amazing. However, we need to understand all these other criteria that go into making a good decision for you for your future. And so let's make sure that we don't get focused on the shiny object over here. And again, create some intention behind what you want in your college experience, both on the academic side and on the dance team side. And I think the parents should help drive the bus on that piece of it and not necessarily let the dancer, just kind of go on a whim on something that they saw on TikTok, right? So I think that's the most important part. And then also for parents is determining how much money you're willing to invest in this little journey because there are dancers that are basically going on tour now. Right. It's literally combine to clinic to combine to convention to clinic to, and I understand the sense of need to do that. We're at the point in this process where it's becoming like I have to do this. If I don't do this, there's no way we need to dial that back. We need to dial that back as an industry because it cannot be a process of the haves and the have-nots. We need to make sure it's equitable, that there's ways that dancers can find their way onto Ohio State or Minnesota without, having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars flying all over the country. So I think managing the budget and the expectations for, okay, this is again, intention strategy of how we're going to go about it versus just, going on tour and trying to get on the best team possible.
Great, great advice. And your book, The Recruitable Dancer, is really first of its kind. You're breaking into the industry with the much needed time to hear. And I think it's really important too, as the whole process continues to evolve, for us to have these conversations at all levels, from coaches to parents to athletes and beyond. And I think it's something like you had talked about, Ohio, Minnesota, the top two dance teams. And something that we've heard from other college coaches is, first and foremost, do you even like the school that you're going to?
Yeah.
Sometimes you could live in California and you're like, yeah, I want to dance on Minnesota, but do you even like snow and cold? Do you know what it's like in Minnesota? Like, it's not California weather. Also,
Yeah.
the being so far from family is very tough to navigate,
Right.
for an 18, 17, 18-year-old to navigate a huge move and being away from everything they know. And then first and foremost, and also, like, let's be real, what is your college degree in? Are you going to be able to get a job in the field that you're going to school and paying? You also are paying for a college education along with the dance team, and you got to leave college with that so that then you can go out and make the money to pay back maybe your student loans. But with all that being said, is the kids are bright-eyed, and yes, there can be a career in dance past college, but like you said, managing expectations and having those real conversations. And it's okay if they don't, also, there's okay if they don't know either, because I sure am not doing the thing I set out. And we all three of us sitting here know that my
Yeah.
18-year self is not who I set out to be today, at all. When it comes to the college experience, I think it's really important. So I want to pour gratitude in for bringing this awareness and doing the work and writing a book that can be so helpful to millions of parents and dancers and coaches. So thank you. As we wrap up, there was one more thing I was going to say, is that there are some colleges, and maybe you could speak on this, that do offer scholarships. The NAIA, I know for sure. There's an NAIA college here in Iowa, Mount Mercy, and one of our dancers from our studio just got recruited to Mount Mercy. And there
Mhm.
are, in the smaller schools, there are scholarships available to dance. And like you said, it might just look different. It's not the Minnesota or Ohio State, but maybe financially that's what works. And they're going to have an incredible college dance experience competitively and on the sidelines, being involved and getting a higher education. So what do you
Right.
see other scholarships? I know it is the goal of D1 to offer scholarships. I know those coaches are working so, so hard. There's other colleges where, hi, you made the team, here's your bill.
Right. Right. Right.
when you talk about the financials part, I want to talk there and then we'll wrap up with our final question.
Yeah. So again, it's part of the discussions I have with families is not only what do you want to pay or budget for your dance team recruitment journey, but what do you want to pay for college? What's in budget? How do we want to look at schools based on your ability to pay for those schools. Again, it makes no sense applying to a school where you're going to pay, $80,000 a year out of pocket and mom and dad are like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So why are we doing that, right? So, yes, it's important to consider in the process, what is it going to cost to attend that college and what opportunities are there for scholarships? For the most part, where they're going to find the scholarships is on the academic side. Again, why the focus on academics for these dancers? Because they aren't getting an athletic scholarship. So a lot of schools will have merit aid for academics, and that's where you will find most of the scholarship money. For NAIA teams, which are the small schools, they do treat dance, as many of them treat dance as a sport. So they get the same perks and benefits as a student athlete at those schools. So they do have athletic scholarships for dance at those schools. So that's an option. Where it gets tricky is making sure that you can take advantage of both the academic scholarships and the athletic scholarships. That gets into a whole different thing about stacking scholarships and how much money the school allow you to have. And that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, so we try and help families figure out what's available at these schools and how to take advantage of them. The other thing I will say is that I think if you're willing to be flexible about location, the Midwest is a fantastic place to go, yes, to get the reduce of college to get the cost of college reduced because a lot of these schools are trying to get people from out of state to come to the Midwest. They will often offer these academic scholarships and make the cost of attending that college almost like as if you were in state. And the in-state tuition at many of those Midwestern schools is even less than, say, in Pennsylvania or New Jersey or some New York. So it becomes very affordable if you're willing to look at schools kind of in that Midwest area is primarily, but there's other options as well. So again, it's what is your intention? What is your strategy on both the college and the dance team side? We try and put together a list that's going to, give you everything you need at the price that you're looking for and set you up to be successful on that college dance team as well. So that's how we try and navigate this craziness.
Yeah, I love that. And you have so many different perspectives to pull from too, as a parent, as a counselor who talks with a lot of parents and athletes, and from the perspective of your kiddos too. So, with all of that, if you could create the perfect world, what would this entire college recruitment process look like? Say 10, 15 years down the line. How would you like to see it change and how would you like to see it set up?
I can't prescribe what all changes need to be made, but I do have an idea about where I would like the end result to be. And that is to allow dancers, like many of the student athletes today, to be able to compare their opportunities at the same time. So I'm looking at colleges A, B, C, and D at the same time, looking at the financial aid packages at the same time, the scholarship offers at the same time, and be able to select one at that time versus what's happening today, which is first come, first serve, right? So if a team recruits and they give you an offer in September, take it or leave it. If the next one comes and it's November, take it or leave it. Your favorite might not audition until April, right? So they're not able to evaluate these together, look at the results. I would love it if dancers could have that opportunity to select a team that's best for them and not be pressured to take in offers that bird in the hand theory that comes early, but it may not be the best solution, the best option for them. And that's where I would love it to get to.
Kathy, you're just remarkable. our industry, on behalf of the whole industry, we are grateful that we have you in this industry and just so grateful that we get to have someone in the corner. And I think every dancer and parent out there right now knows that there is someone in your corner that's going to help you through this. And I want to talk about how people can get in contact with you. So you have your college321.com
Mhm.
and then danceintocollege.com. Is there other ways? I know you're on Instagram. How do people get a hold of you if they want to work with you or just learn more about the amazing content that you have?
Yeah, primarily our website, danceintocollege.com. Lots of information out there about our services, more information about the book. We do put a lot of information out at Dance into College on YouTube, have some videos there where we talk with coaches, and Instagram, Facebook at Dance into College. So there's lots of ways that you can get more insights about the college and dance team journey.
Thank you again. Everyone, go out, get on Amazon, buy the Recruitable Dancer, the essential guide to navigating college admissions and the dance team journey for anyone that's even thinking about it, any parent that has a sixth, seventh middle schooler, like get ahead of it. Kathy's getting you ready and reach out to her. And Kathy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Marley podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Beyond the Marley